Welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Podcast, a weekly show that delivers the best hard-hitting property industry news, business advice, and talks that will get you ascending in the real estate industry. Now, here's your host, the amazing award-winning property and business coach, best-selling author, and serial entrepreneur, Miss Sapphire Gray.
And welcome to another podcast, the Savvy Property Investors Show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another season and episode of the Savvy Property Investors Show. This is a show for newbies and seasoned property investors, coaches, consultants, and trainers who want to become savvy investors and build a legacy for their loved ones. My name is Sapphire Gray, and I'm your host for today. Each season, I try to bring a variety of topics, but season 5 is going to be really special. It's a little different to what I used to do on seasons 1 to 4. And the reason why it's different, because we're focusing purely on finance and the legalities around finance as well. And our first interviewee is going to be a solicitor. More on that topic in a minute. What I'm trying to do is bring that variety in a different way, so you also can get involved. The show is now going out every 2 weeks, which will bring different episodes talking about money matters. Whether that is to your personal finance, your business finance, or property investments, we're going to be interviewing several different guests over the next coming weeks to help you streamline your finances. We're also giving you lots of tips, of course, savings ideas in your business and personal life. And one of the things we'd love to get you involved with is leaving us a comment of things you'd like us to investigate or help you with. If you can do that and share it in the comment below in this YouTube or on our social media, that would really help us to start looking at things that really you would like help with on money matters. Today, we're going to be talking about how instructing a commercial solicitor can save you thousands of pounds. But before I introduce our guests, I want to remind you about a couple of things. If you're new to our podcast, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss another episode. If you haven't downloaded the Property Investors Toolkit, make sure you do that now. You know that following in the footsteps of someone that has already created wealth through property and business is the way to learn. Maybe you've been struggling on what kind of strategies you should start with, or struggling to find the right properties to purchase. Whatever your issue is, the Property Investors Toolkit will really help you on your way. So go over to the savvywomen.co.uk website and check it out. And did I tell you it's at an affordable price of £37? So go over there right now and check it out. And if you scroll down also in our show notes, you'll find a link to this wonderful offer. If you're watching on YouTube and other social media platforms, you'd also find it in our comment section. So it's now time to introduce our wonderful guest today. Her name is Genevieve Mead. Genevieve has a BA and MA Cantab degree from St. Catherine's College, University of Cambridge, and qualified as a solicitor in 2001. Genevieve worked in a city law firm in London before working as an in-house counsel in a technology company and multinational industrial conglomerate in the UK and Europe. She joined Knocker Foskett Solicitors in Sevenoaks, Kent, July of this year. Genevieve is a senior solicitor and specialises in general company and commercial works. I'm Sapphire Gray, your host, and let's get started. Genevieve, thank you so much for joining me today. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. The pleasure's mine.
Excellent. And just to let our audience know how I actually met you, we met at a networking event. I tell you, the powers of networking is wonderful. So we met at a networking event. It was the Chambers networking event. And it was done in Sevenoaks, and it was just really nice to get to know other people there, network and learn about different industries. And Genevieve was sprung to my mind because I really felt her sharing with you today all things about commercial as a solicitor and in a commercial environment. So I look forward to asking you the questions, Geneva, and getting started. So just to kick this off, what is the code-to-code company service that you provide?
Yeah, okay. Well, I provide the full range of company and commercial services that you'll find
Excellent.
in a law firm. And so I would work with really any sector or industry, so industrial and manufacturing, retail companies, professional services companies, financial, IT, and property companies and others.
Excellent.
Full range of things that I might get involved with is starting up company formations, appointment of directors, loan and finance documents, some company secretarial administration, drafting board minutes, and dealing with company's house, which you have to do for all companies.
Yeah.
I might be involved with share and asset sales, shareholder agreements, share option agreements, dealing with the company's memorandum and articles. They might need to be changed. I'll deal with contracts for goods and services, distribution agreements, and websites and their terms and conditions. So that's sort of a flavor of the range of things.
And that seems like a plethora of services that you offer. And I don't think people, when they're setting up a business, quite understands what goes on, the mechanics behind setting up that business. And that's what your services are there for, to make sure that everything that they want for their specific business is in play. Because now we understand, and I'm just picking out one of those points, is about the website. The terms and conditions has to be on point now, because people will take up, a service or buy something off of a website. And then if they put in a complaint and you haven't stipulated that on your website, it's just a lengthy legal process that can get you in a plethora of problems, when you could have simply sorted out with someone like yourself and using your services to save money in the long run, without going into all of that legal stuff that they could have avoided simply by getting your firm to represent them, in other words.
Yes, no, that is really true. Websites now, just about every company has them. They are something you need to look at.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's the window to your business as well. And when you're looking at the setup of your company, another thing that people don't take on board is all of the memorandum of articles, how the directors, who are the directors, who's the secretary of the company. It can become really confusing, despite you can go online and get someone to just, set up a company and it's cheap. You still don't know the functionings of that company, and that's what your business solicitors firm does, is represent and goes through the process, so it simplifies it, but also make sure that you're in that legal throes and doing really well with your business right at the gate. Is that not correct?
Yeah, no, that's a very good summary. Thanks.
Excellent. Can you advise someone before they start up a company or business?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. If someone has a company that they want to start up, they've got an idea and they want to talk about how you would actually structure it and bring it to life, I can definitely discuss with somebody company formation. Also, if that's not the way to do it, they might want to just set up a partnership if they got one other person they want to work with. We can also discuss a limited liability partnership, which is a different structure with a different legal structure there. Also, you can also go into a joint venture agreement, for example. Those are for more short-term ventures that you do with another company, which will eventually come to an end. Also, some people might be thinking about entering into a franchise and taking on a franchise business from a larger entity. So they're all structures that I can discuss the pros and cons with somebody.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And just for clarification, for those that might not know what a franchise is, it's like your McDonald's or your Burger Kings. Those are all franchise businesses. All your coffee shops, they're also franchise businesses.
Body Shop, Subway. There are lots of businesses where you can enter and have your own shop, where you basically have an agreement on how you can use the name and the products and the company structure as a business format. like a business plan, and then you usually pay some kind of fee to the overall franchisor.
Absolutely.
But that has a legal structure that you might want to take advice on.
Yeah, excellent, brilliant. Thanks for that. And what kind of matters do you advise on established and mature companies on?
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, there's all sorts of things that come up once a company's been running for a while, and all sort of matter. So I can just talk about some of them. I would, for example, get involved with drafting director service contracts. The company might want to be borrowing money because of particular periods in time in its growth. So I would advise on loan and finance documents. There may be certain management decisions that you might want to come to a solicitor for. You might want advice on strategic maneuvers, depending on how complicated the management structure is, and we can assist in that. Some of that is actually more subtle than just giving basic advice. The company might be expanding into new markets, and you might want to have a look at if there's any regulation that's going to hold you back, or discuss it generally and about how it's going to impact the structure of your existing company. You might want to make some changes to your share capital, and there are various steps in that kind of process which you need to have a look at very carefully. You might want to be issuing shares, you might want to be dealing with dividend payments, you might want to be actually reclassifying the shares you've got so that you have more possibilities in that regard. So those are some of the legal processes that I might get involved with.
So what are the benefits, some of the benefits of using your company, financial benefits of using your company?
Okay, well, first of all, I think that as a solicitor's firm, our chargeable rates are very reasonable. So, and we try very hard to keep them reasonable. And the other aspect is if you go and see a commercial solicitor, before you start up a company or before you are going to go and start something new within your own company that exists, you will probably find out some of the pitfalls and the problems that you don't yet foresee, which can in the long term save you a lot of money and a lot of stress. And actually, the more you know about your various options, the better you are able to handle any problems that come along. And also, I mean, worst case scenario, you want to avoid litigation and disputes. So solicitors can help you long before any of that is even on the horizon.
That's very true. And this season is all about money matters. And to be able to save in the front end and getting the advice, because sometimes we like to run along and just set up a business without thought, or buy a business without much thought, because it looks favorable, and we could get a solicitor that's not specialized in commercial, and that's the difference as well. We could use a family friend or someone like that who's not giving us the proper advice. And that's why I believe when you're doing something in the commercial realm is to get those that specialize in commercial property, commercial businesses and things like that, so that they understand what you're trying to achieve. And I think that then saves you money definitely in the long run.
Yes, it definitely does.
Yeah. And it goes to say as well, so like if someone was selling a company, how would they go about doing that as well?
Yeah, okay. Yes, I'm involved with selling companies, and I think just to make it as simple as possible, there are a couple of steps you have to go through usually, and the buyer of a company has to do some due diligence, which is some investigations into the target company or the target business that they want to buy. So they will have a look at all of the assets, everything that they own. They will also have a look at the financials. That's very important to get a good idea of whether this is really a business, if it's attractive enough, or if it's really a business that you do want to take over. But technically, there are two ways of buying a company, which is a share sale or an asset sale. With a share sale, you actually buy the shares so that the complete company transfers from the seller to the buyer. And sometimes, though, you have an asset sale, which is where you only purchase the assets. That could be very specific things. And then the company itself stays with the original owner. I mean, these are two technical things which, are sort of good to know. But ultimately, the situation usually determines which is possible, whether it's going to be a share sale or an asset sale.
Excellent. And is the shares based on someone coming in and doing a valuation on the company?
Yeah, definitely. Usually an accountant would be involved with that. And for
Excellent.
specific types of companies in specific industries, they might be a consultant who might come in and have a say for this particular type of business in a particular sector. You should expect it to be this value. So there might be some cooperation there.
Excellent. So what are the general contracts, terms and conditions then that go
Okay.
along?
Yeah, I mean, depending on your business, I would always say that it's a good idea to have standard terms and conditions. And I can, one of the things I do is review people's standards, terms and conditions they have and see if they're up to date or whether I can advise whether they can be improved or just draw them up from scratch. And I say there are various areas where you need this. You need to sometimes contract on standard terms with your customers so that you basically deal with customers in the same way. Also, if you've got suppliers to your business that supply products, components, or other services to your own business, those suppliers you might want to have standard terms and conditions on yours as well. And also, when you are dealing with very large contracts that come in, a solicitor might be involved with having a look at that contract, having a look at the risks and evaluating whether you can negotiate a bit. You can usually with other private companies that you're doing business with, and also with public entity contracts. Usually on those you can't negotiate the terms, they're usually non-negotiable, but it's good for a solicitor to have a look through so that I can evaluate the risks and tell you what kind of risk you're taking on. For example, you might not be able to put any limitations on your contractual liability, so you need to know that from the financial point of view, so that you know what kind of risk you're taking on if anything were to not go quite according to plan. Also, with standard terms and conditions, if you've got a sales team that work for your company and go out into the market, you want them all to work on the same standard terms and conditions. That also makes it easier for you to actually get the same expectations out of your sales team.
Okay, excellent. Well, we've learned so much in this first half. We're going to take a break now. So join us after the break with more insights from Geneva.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button below. Our podcast is only made possible by great listeners like you.
Thank you so much. I feel like I've learned so much about your firm and what you're actually doing and how you help companies as well before they start up a business and once they're established or a mature company. And also, what's the selling aspects? How can someone sell a company? You talked about the two different ways of doing that as well. So what about the company's policies then?
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, I mean, nowadays it's quite common, it's quite important, in fact, to have corporate policies for your business. I mean, even if it's small, it's good to have that. And normally I can draw up, for example, certain policies that I think are required, or perhaps review the ones that you have already and see if they're up to date, sort of corporate and employment policies. And I'd say that some of the most common things that you need to think about is having an environmental, social and governance, ESG policy, a data protection policy, an anti-bribery policy, an anti-money laundering policy. And you need to have those basically also within your suppliers handbook, because the suppliers, you need to know that they are also compliant with, the accepted legislation, and also to have those written into an employment handbook so your employees follow it as well. And then also I would recommend some of the time to ensure that management, suppliers and employees are aware of the policies, and also sometimes to have some training on them.
Brilliant. I love that, because sometimes you just don't understand what really goes in. As I said, the mechanics behind the business, people just think it's literally companies are signing up and I'm in business, but you're sharing with us all the different elements that goes behind it, the company policies and what is deemed to be a framework that you must use within your business to make your business more ethical as well. Because if you're in business, you want that your employees and your suppliers and yourself are seen to be doing the right thing by your clientele. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So what about the IPRs then?
Yeah, intellectual property rights. Well,
Mm.
very commonly businesses and companies have a company name, they have copyrights, they have trademarks, logos, design
Mm-hmm.
rights, they might have patents.
Mm-hmm.
They're all slightly different. They're all very valuable assets that a company or a business has. And I can usually give advice on copyright documents, trademarks and branding, royalty agreements, confidentiality agreements, non-disclosure agreements. So if anyone needs advice on those, I can advise on them.
Nice.
And also it's important to remember that intellectual property rights are usually some of the most important, valuable assets of a company when you sell it. And they might make up a huge amount of the price of the company in some circumstances. So it's important to get the right protection for those.
And I really, when I feel this is a really important thing as well, because right across the board, we are so social driven nowadays. Our brands are out there. Everyone's brands is out there. If we're not on social media 24 hours a day, our brands are, our website is our brand. And, the content that we put out, things that we do needs to also be protected. Like even I'm an author as well. So I've written a book, and having that protected as well, and not having people trying to rip off the content or the copyrights of that. All of these things people need to be aware of when you're producing something, and even the business name itself is important to protect as well. And a lot of people don't know that. They choose the name and think, oh, no one's going to have that name, and then someone else sets up across the world with that name. You're not protected because it's not been legally protected. So you've got no recourse on the back end of that. So it's important to, again, to see someone like yourself, Geneva, and say, look, this is what my intentions is with the business. How do I protect my assets? How do I protect my intellectual property as well? Brilliant. So what other services does your law firm offer?
Yes. Okay. As you mentioned in your introduction, Knocker Foskett is a Sevenoaks based firm.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a long established, founded in 1730. Right. We have about 35 to 40 employees. And the areas of law that we advise in are private client, wills and probate, matrimonial law, commercial litigation, residential property, commercial property, and employment. And I just wanted to say that, of course we accept clients locally, but also anywhere in the UK, and also clients who live abroad. And of course we see clients person to person come into the office, but also speak to people, see them on Zoom and also over the phone.
So you're amenable to all right across the world, locally, and by any means necessary. This is absolutely brilliant. So, and I know you're easily contactable and easily approachable as well. So people are going to probably be asking, well, you offer all these services and everything else. What is the cost of, does your services cost?
Okay, well, I charge £295 an hour. Excellent. And at the beginning of a matter, I would always estimate how long I think it's going to take. So then you would get a sort of a minimum and a maximum fee estimate for what, the task is going to take. Partners in the firm have slightly higher charge out rates. Yeah. It's £315 an hour. So that's what it costs.
Do you do retainers as well, Geneva? If a client wants to retain you for a period of time, is there a difference in the pricing then?
No, there isn't actually, because it always is based on the hours.
Okay.
But I mean, we would always estimate. We also update our clients on where we are in the process and how much, where we are in terms of cost. So it's very important that clients know what it costs all the way through.
Can we just clarify, is the initial meeting with yourself chargeable, or is it to establish where you're going with the client?
Well, initial meetings sometimes is just to find out, instructions, what's going on. And then after that, I might want to I will sit down and I'll say, I think it's going to cost, this is what I think we need to do, and this is what it's going to cost. And then, the client, the potential client can go off and think about it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's different if something is urgent and someone needs the advice straight away. Then, within that first meeting, you might be, doing all the steps, very close in periods of
Yeah.
time and getting everything done. So, every situation is slightly different.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when you're looking, it depends on where you are with your business. If you're starting up and you just want some general advice, then yeah, it could take an hour, could take longer than that. And that process, you would then evaluate within that first meeting and said, right, this is what I estimate it to be, and then take it from there. But I know that you keep people in the loop, and you've been around, the company's been around for longer than I have. So I definitely know it's a long-standing and trustworthy company in that you give excellent services to your clientele, and the feedback is phenomenal on that. So how can people contact you and connect with you?
Yeah, sure. Well, our website, the company's website, is www.knocker-foskett.co.uk. So you can also just make an inquiry through the website, but also you can contact me directly. My email address is g.mead@knocker-foskett.co.uk. But also you can also contact me by messaging me through LinkedIn. Just find my profile, Genevieve Mead, and I'm sure, and then I'll come back to you. And then basically, just get in touch for a confidential chat to discuss if actually I'm able to help you.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. To make sure you check out Geneva and this very interesting interview. All of the contact details will be in our comments and will be going out on our social media. So please feel free to reach out to her. She is on LinkedIn. So if you just search for Genevieve Mead, Knockers and Foskett Solicitors on LinkedIn, you'll find her contact details there. Thank you again, Geneva, for being on the show. You was excellent. Loved your question, the answers that you was giving to our questions. Really learned something myself, and appreciate your time as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, download, and share. So come on, Savvy Investors, let's take flight, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time, our new schedule with the Savvy Property Investors Show.
This week's episode of the Savvy Property Investors Podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, the Savvy Women Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk, to gain access to our free resources and more insights about our guest speaker today. Remember, we make your business our business, so you can unlock your full potential and improve your quality of life.